part of that song. Please still standing. Thank you so much.
Neath the broad expanse of Nigeria's sky stands a school with a vision bright, ever holding the banner of knowledge high. We'll go forward by wisdom's might. All hail to the alma mater. We have come from near and far to unite in Calabar. We'll work to build our alma mater, University of Calabar. We are quest for knowledge in every field, having purpose to serve mankind. With a fervent hope that our efforts yield fruits for all who will come behind. All hail to the alma mater. We have come from near and far to unite in Calabar. We'll work to build our alma mater, University of Calabar. Mighty God, from whom all knowledge comes, let the wisdom in us overflow. May the knowledge gained in our campus here guide our steps as we onward go. All hail to the alma mater. We have come from near and far to unite in Calabar. We'll work to build our alma mater, University of Calabar.
Thank you so much. You may please take a seat. It is my delight and pleasure to welcome all of us here present after the festive celebration to the first inaugural lecture of the year, the 133rd inaugural lecture. Please, before we go into the lecture proper, we are going to do something unique. Now look at your neighbor. We are seeing ourselves for the first time this year. Tell your neighbor with a beaming smile, Happy New Year. If your neighbor is not smiling, we draw the Happy New Year. We draw the wish. Ensure that your neighbor is smiling. If there is no smile, please take back your wish. Happy New Year to all of us. Thank you so much. May I welcome us again to the 133rd inaugural lecture. As you all know, inaugural lecture is a forum where professors showcase their knowledge for the past years. It is a forum to pay debt to the university after carrying out a series of research. At this point, before I go into further details of the lecture, may I recognize members of the high table. Permit me to recognize here present the Vice Chancellor of this university, Professor Florence Obi, who is ably represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Professor Inorganic. Can we put our hands together for her? And I also recognize a Tier Robert Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor Tony Iyan. Please put your hands together for me. Also to be recognized is the Deputy Vice Chancellor Research, Linkages and Collaborations, Professor Peter Okafor. You're welcome, sir. And may I also recognize the Registrar of this great institution. She is no other person than Dr. Mrs. Chukwuka Icha. Please put your hands together for her. Also here present is the Provost, College of Medical Sciences, Professor Ngum. Can we put our hands together for him? And may I honorably recognize also here present the Provost School of Postgraduate Studies, Professor Offiong Effanga Offiong. Please put your hands together. The Chairman Committee of Deans, who is also the Dean of Physical Sciences, Professor Offiong Effanga is here present. Welcome, madam. This is our faculty. May I also recognize the person to tell us who the inaugural lecturer is, to unravel the shadow behind the lecturer. That's not the person, that Professor Ayi. Down there, put your hands together for me. And I want to especially introduce to you an erudite Professor of Inorganic and Coordination Chemistry, Department of Pure and Industrial Chemistry, who is from the Faculty of Physical Sciences and the 133rd inaugural lecturer. That is no other person than Professor Offiong Effanga Offiong. Please put your hands together. He will be properly introduced in the course of the lecture. May I recognize erudite professors present, deans of faculties, directors of institutes, heads of departments here present. And so may I recognize our royal fathers here present. I've also seen the Marine Unena of Calabar, Professor Itam, and his dear wife. Please put your hands together for them. May I recognize all former Vice Chancellors here present. I can recognize the Vice Chancellor of Pine State University, Professor Isin. You're welcome, sir. And may I also recognize former Vice Chancellor of University of Lafayette, Nasarawa State, Professor Ikari. She's there. Please put your hands together for her. And also to recognize High Chief Gershom Enshaw, here present, Chairman of Calabar Executive Forum. Please you're recognized. Honorable Justice and Mrs. Charles, you're recognized. His Royal Majesty had already recognized him, Professor and Elder Professor Itam. Please you're recognized. Muri Munene of a Foot Nation. Please you're recognized once again. Revolutionary, you're recognized. Professor Miranda Usumu, you're recognized. Professor May I especially recognize here present the Chairman, Ceremonial Committee, Professor Chris Mwamo, all past inaugural lecturers, invited guests, members of the university community, Malabites and Malapresses. Please, you're all welcome. Can we put our hands together for ourselves? Before we carry on, permit me to recognize the immediate family of the inaugural lecturer. His better half is here, his love, his manilini, you know what we mean in from language, the wife, the cockroach in his collar, the sugar in his tea, Professor Ane I Offiong. She's here. Please put your hands together for her. May I recognize here present the children here present, Engineer Effanga Offiong, as I call your name, stand and wave to the crowd. Stand and wave. You're welcome, Dr. Offiong, Miss Ene Offiong. I saw them earlier. Please, you're all recognized. The siblings are also here present. Engineer Effanga Offiong, Elder Paul E. Offiong, and Dr. Bora E. Offiong. Please, you're recognized. His classmate, Hope Model Training Institution class set of 1974, Hope Forever. Special guests also include his mother-in-law had recognized her, Professor Dozumo, and Dr. Nana George, her sister. And may I recognize clergy here present, His Eminence, the Prelate Presbyterian Church of Nigeria, Dr. Offiong Banika, and all reverend ministers of the Presbyterian Church of Nigeria. May I especially recognize Royal Highness, Etubo Kingsley Ubu Offiong, who is representing council members of Calabar. Please, you're all recognized. And may I welcome you once again to the 133rd inaugural lecture on the topic Metal Ions in Biochemical and Environmental Systems, the good and the bad from the perspective of a coordination chemist. At this point, I need to hand over the microphone to the registrar, Dr. Mrs. Chukwuka, to carry on the further proceedings of this inaugural lecture.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please permit me to call on the Vice Chancellor and Chairman of this occasion, ably represented by the DBC Administration, Professor Enonta, to give her opening remarks.
The inaugural lecturer, the registrar, the dean of chairman committee of deans, the DVCs, and all members of the university management, deans, directors, provosts, professors, lecturers, students, our distinguished guests. Today, the family, the Offiong family, in-laws, friends, members of the Presbyterian Church of Nigeria, our royal father and mother, and all other Nigerians that are here from home and abroad. Actually, as the very first inaugural lecture of 2025, this lecture is already unique. Because for you to be the one to open the year means that you are opening to us showers of blessings. And you can imagine that it is by no other person than our very own Professor Offiong. And of course, the Ofiongs are like saying unical, because we know them from the front and from the back. Unical, unical, unical. And so it is our own day. It is our own thing. And we are very thankful to God that it is coming to pass today. For it is indeed a day that has been destined for this. There isn't much that I can say here at this point, other than to welcome you to the University of Calabar on behalf of my Vice Chancellor, Professor Florence Bankodi. She would have loved to be here, but again, many things to ensure that 2025 brings all that we want it to be have taken her away. And where she is, I'm sure she's already set to be part of this. So welcome you. This year is a unique year, the year where we celebrate our 50th year as a university, a year where we are gearing up for Luga in 2026, a year where we have just been able to be part of the carnival that ended the year 2024. But above all, it's a year where our chemistry department has been making waves, because we have had many laureates coming to us from that angle. And this is like crowning it now with this inaugural lecture. I am sure you won't be disappointed. Well, when we are talking about biochemical, the metal ions are biochemical in biochemical and environmental systems. You know that you're going to have a lot to learn. I have come with my pen and my paper, and I tell you that at the end, If the inaugural lecturer will permit, we will give a test and we will know those who actually came to learn. So please enjoy yourselves, clean your ears properly. Make sure that you won't leave this place without something new. And say to yourself, it will be a worthwhile event. Welcome and thank you.
Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I will now invite Professor AIE to read the citation of the 133rd inaugural lecturer, Professor Offiong Effanga Offiong.
Citation of Professor Offiong Effanga Offiong, Professor of Inorganic and Coordination Chemistry. Professor Offiong, please stand. The Vice Chancellor, University of Calabar, and Chairman of the inaugural lecture, here represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration, the Deputy Vice Chancellors here present, members of the University Governing Council, the Registrar of the University of Calabar, other principal officers of the University of Calabar, the Chairperson, Committee of Deans, Provost, College of Medical Sciences, Provost, College of Postgraduate School, Deans of Faculties and Directors of Institutes, eminent past inaugural lecturers, distinguished professors and scholars, heads of departments and units, my lords, spiritual and temporal, special guests, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Malabarites and Malabresses. From the cradle, Professor Offiong Effanga Offiong was fascinated with the love of distinction. When he left primary school at the age of 11, he went away with a certificate of distinction. At the famous Hope Wardell Training Institution, Calabar, he passed his West African School Certificate Examination in 1979 with Division 1. The trail of distinguished performances remained a constant companion as he graduated from the University of Calabar, Cross-River State, Nigeria in 1984 with a second-class upper division degree in chemistry. By 1990, his brilliant academic trajectory culminated in a PhD degree in inorganic chemistry at the age of 27, with his thesis on the synthesis, stereochemical characterization, and biologic activity of thiosemicarbarazone and semicarbarazone transition metal complexes. After his National Youth Service Corps Scheme assignment, where he was a junior research fellow at the University of Ibadan in 1985, he joined the University of Calabar as a graduate assistant, being the first graduate of the department to be so appointed since its inception, and therefore began an impressive academic sojourn at this great citadel. Professor Offiong grew through the ranks in academic. He became a substantive professor of inorganic and coordination chemistry in 2002 at the age of 39. A feat that was very rare then and still uncommon now. This man of distinction was the first alumnus of the Department of Chemistry, University of Calabar, to become a professor since it was established. He has published about 90 articles in local and international journals, as well as 2 books. He has presently 2,702 and 1,901 citations in Google Scholar and Scopus, respectively. Professor Offiong is a fellow of International Union Against Cancer. He has successfully supervised and graduated 16 PhD and 7 MSc students in inorganic, coordination chemistry, and related fields. One of the PhD theses won the National Universities Commission Prize for the best thesis in physical sciences here in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, it will also interest you to know that 5 of his Supervisees are professors, while 3 are associate professors in our universities. You can clap better. As a true scholar, he has mentored several young and upcoming academics across the globe. His commitment to academic excellence, coupled with his generosity of spirit and willingness for collaboration, has earned him the respect and admiration of peers and students alike. From 1998, he started serving as visiting lecturer and visiting professor to many universities in the Department of Chemistry, including University of EDU, Akwa Ibom State University, Cross River University of Technology, now Unicross. His passion for teaching and mentorship has touched the lives of countless students, providing them with the guidance and support necessary to achieve their academic goals. Besides the passion and pull of academics, Professor Offiong's administrative sagacity has been tested and proven from the active and hands-on experiences in the university community. Apart from being the head of inorganic units in the Department of Chemistry, University of Calabar, he has served variously and meritoriously in the University of Calabar as the Dean, Student Affairs, Dean, Faculty of Science, Chairman, Students Welfare Board 2006, Member, University of Calabar Reform Implementations Committee, RIC 2007, Chairman of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, from 2000 to 2004, Zonal Coordinator of ASU from 2000 to 2005, National Vice President of ASU from 2004 to 2006. Our inaugural lecturer has been a member of Senate of the University of Calabar from 1999 till date. Between 2000 and 2004, he played a pivotal role in the governing council of our great institution, serving in several sensitive committees such as Finance and General Purpose Committee of Council, Disciplinary Committee, Center for Educational Services Board, and the University of Calabar International Secondary School Governing Board. A thoroughbred professional, Professor Offiong has been actively engaged with the following bodies: Chemical Society of Nigeria since 1986, Environmental Society of Nigeria since 1999, Editorial Boards, Tropical Journal of Applied Chemistry, Editorial Boards, Global Journal of Pure and Applied Science, and the Fellow of the International Union Against Cancer, Switzerland. His meticulous attention to detail and passion for research has made him an invaluable asset to his team. Professor Offiong's public service experiences are rich, penetrative, and diverse. He was the Cross River State Commissioner of Education from 2007 to 2015. He was the Chairman, Education and Social Services Cluster, Cross River State Government, comprising 11 ministries and agencies. He was at various times the leader of the Cross River State delegations on study tours to educational institutions in India, Finland, Highbury College, Portsmouth, and United Kingdom. A former chairman of State Commissioners of Education Forum in Nigeria from 2009 to 2015, a member of the Presidential Task Team on Education, Professor Offiong has remained a lead consultant on many turnkey projects and environmental impact assessment team across the country. Some of assignments he was involved were the proposed Dangote Salt Refinery at Oregon, Lagos, and the Marginal Oil Fields Development Projects for Midwestern Oil and Gas PLC, the Chorus Energy Limited, Energia Limited, Pillar Oil Limited, Platform Petroleum Limited, and Independent Energy Limited. Our inaugural lecturer today, who has attended several conferences across the continent in diverse fields of academic and public service endeavors, is an avid stickler for academic integrity and excellence within and outside the university community. Since 2001, he has been an external examiner to several institutions, including the Polytechnic, the then Polytechnic Calabar, Cross River State University Calabar, alternate external examiner, Department of Chemistry, Benue State University, University of Uyo, Michael Okpara University, University of Nsukka, University of Abuja, River State University, and many others. He has also served as an external assessor for the promotion of academics to the professorial cadre in several universities. A Paul Harris Fellow of Rotary International and immediate past president of the Boys Brigade of Nigeria in Cross River State, Professor Offiong had the singular honor of being the keynote speaker at the World Teachers' Day in 2002 as well as the Gaski Centennial Anniversary Lecturer of the Hope Model Training Institution, Calabar. He is widely traveled and has visited and worked in many universities and laboratories abroad, including Italy, Germany, England, Finland, India, United States of America, to mention a few. Professor is a shining example of a true global citizen with a passport that tells the story of a distinguished and peripatetic academic who has traversed the globe, sharing his expertise and absorbing the wisdom of diverse cultures. Born in 1963, Professor Offiong is married to Professor Mrs. Ame Offiong Ni Emoepa, a professor of finance in the Department of Banking and Finance, University of Calabar. The union is blessed with 3 children, Engineer Effanga Offiong, Dr. Asa Offiong, and Ms. Eme Offiong. Professor Offiong is a man of faith, a devoted Christian, and a ruling elder of the Presbyterian Church of Nigeria. He is presently the chairman of the Presbyterian Educational Authority. One of the famous American philosophers, Ralph Waldo Emerson, once noted in Society and Solitude that we do not count a man's years until he has nothing else to count. Knowing Professor Offiong Effanga Offiong and his pedigree, even beyond the field of inorganic chemistry, there's still so much to titrate and contribute to man and mankind that counting the age remains a far-off possibility. Madam Vice Chancellor, may I have the honor to invite Professor Offiong Effanga Offiong, a professor of professors, whose passion for learning is contagious and inspiring. His contribution in the field of inorganic and coordination chemistry are immeasurable and will be remembered for the generation to come. A man who has dedicated his life towards advancing and has earned a place among the most esteemed scholars of our time, a consummate gentleman, and the 133rd inaugural lecturer of the University of Calabar, Professor Offiong Effanga Offiong.
The Vice Chancellor and Chairman of this inaugural lecture, here represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Professor Mrs. Nta. Let me, anchored on already established protocol, I would like to say a few words before I get into my lecture. This lecture reminds me of a discussion I had with a 3-year-old boy about 30 years ago. I went to what they call chemist, popularly called chemist, to pick an anti-malaria drug. And the boy apparently came from a medical facility to the chemist with the mother to pick anti-malaria as well as something to boost his immunity, what they call some iron tablet. And when the mother asked the person on the desk that he wanted iron tablet, the boy asked the mother, iron? Iron? And 3 times pointed to a construction site that was beside the facility. And the mother said, it is not that one. He said, but that's what they call iron. So why do you want to give me iron? I was intrigued by this, and I sought to intervene by explaining to the young man a very simple experiment. I said, when you get home, look for any nail, which is iron, put it in a bottle that contains water, and leave it for some time. Keep monitoring it. You will see that nail will begin to rust, and the color of the water will turn gradually towards brown. That shows you that you have ions in that water. That every big substance you see, their final state is always very small, and that is what your body needs, the ions that comes from that piece of it. Madam Vice Chancellor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to 133rd inaugural lecture. And this lecture, I've been asked severally about the meaning. And I think today at the end of this lecture, the meaning will be very clear to everybody. The lecture is titled Metal Ion in Biochemical and Environmental Systems, the Good and the Bad. And from the perspective of a coordination chemist, I am a coordination chemist, and the way I look at it may be different from the way my friends in the medical school looks at it, and it will be also different from the way somebody in the engineering looks at it. So I welcome you all. Please relax and enjoy as I take you through my world of chemistry. I thank the Heavenly Father for this day. I remember vividly 1985 when I was appointed a graduate assistant. I was just coming back from the NYC the weekend, and on Monday, I strolled into the department to check my mails, since I was still getting mails in the department. And just at the small gate, I was accosted by one of the registry staff that I have a letter waiting for me. And I decided to peep in there, and behold, it was an appointment letter as a graduate assistant in the Department of Chemistry, University of Calabar. And UNICAL then was heavily populated by a lot of expatriates, and I'm happy that a lot of us who were there in UNICAL those days have seen quite a number of faces here that are here today. So my appointment, I had what I then saw as a misfortune to be sent to a unit called Inorganic unit. And the Inorganic unit, there were only Indians there. And the then Vice Chancellor, the then head of the department, who was also doubling as a dean as at then, led a two-bone professor here, insisted that I must understudy them. So I became the guinea pig of the Inorganic unit under the Indians. But today I thank God that today I see a lot of us Nigerians who are Professor of Inorganic Chemistry from that stock. Apart from being able to produce 5 professors in Inorganic Chemistry as of today, some of them have also started producing many other doctors and PhD in Inorganic Chemistry. So I believe that God had a purpose for sending me to Inorganic unit, and I give glory to God for all that I have achieved in that area. The 133 inaugural lecture is titled The Metal Ion in Biochemical and Environmental Systems, the Good and the Bad from the perspective of a coordination chemist. I will take you through the background briefly, explaining what is environmental system, what is biochemical system, and what constitutes ions, and what makes them unique, that I have to devote all this time to speak about ion. And then I will take you through one of the major part of my research, which is synthesis and characterization of skill bases and the development of metallo drugs. Just like drugs, but this time they are drugs that are based on the activity of metals. And the second trend of my research has to do with applying some of these compounds in inhibiting or preventing corrosion. And then lastly, application of the compound also in helping to solve environmental related problems like pollution. So what is metal? Not like my small infant asked me that question. We are not interested about the mega metal you see the rod. We are straight with it in our everyday life. But we are talking about that tiny level of metal in the environment that causes good and causes harm, which are the ions. They break down into ions in solution, and those ions typify their reactivity, typifies their properties, and they influence the various biochemical and environmental processes in life. Biochemical system has to do with the entire system that has to do with the cellular function, which all of us have, including plant, and also enzymatic activity that enables all the heavy food we eat to be digested and broken down to give us energy and rebuild our body, and also maintaining even our body structure, the protein structure and function. When metals gain electron, which there are few of them that gains electron, they become what we call anions. But when they lose electron, they become cation. And most of our interaction, and which I will be referring to in this lecture, has to do with the cations. So we have many of them, sodium cation, that helps us maintain our body, the balance in our body fluid, etc. But the interesting thing about metal in the biochemical system that they are omnipresent, they are always there. Even from the beginning of man, metals are there. And it's there in plant. And also, we see them as part of the weathering process in rocks, and also industrial pollution and pollution. The distribution and speciation of this metal in environment like air and water, soils, significantly impact their bioavailability. How are they available to us to the extent of beginning to constitute hazard to our health? Or how are they available to us towards ensuring our overall well-being, and how have they available to us to such a high level that they begin to harm us and we say they are toxic. So all these are some of the issues that surrounds metal in biochemical system. Now, where do I come in as a coordination chemist? I come in as a coordination chemist because the process through which metals combine with certain molecules, including even in the biochemical system, is through metal ligand bond. So they form a strong bond, and these bonds we refer to them as Lewis bond. And that bond is by virtue of the fact that they are cations and they accept lone pair of electrons from the molecules which we refer to as Lewis base. And this is very prevalent both in the environment, in the biochemical system, and even the basis for their therapeutic applications. We use them because ability to maneuver their reaction, either by reducing their excesses in the body, by subjecting them to coordination with stronger molecules that will displace them and remove them from the molecule. And then lastly, we also use them for corrosion inhibition. So exploring the dual nature of metal highlight both their beneficial and detrimental effect is really the core of this discussion today. The detrimental effect are the one we call the bad role, and the beneficial effect are the one we call the good role. So by adopting coordination chemist point of view, we will be able to delve into the intricacies of metal-ion behavior, examining their occurrence, sources, beneficial effect, detrimental effect, and a collaborative research area that seeks to address the challenge posed by this metal-ion. And I purposely put this collaborative research because most of us in the medical schools or in the biosciences will be wondering what is this hard chemist talking about: biological activity, therapeutic effect, because there is collaboration between me and some of our experts in this field. So there are two types of metals as we discuss. We'll have the ones we call the essential metals. The essential metals are also grouped into two. The ones you call the macro essential metal, and sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium comes in here. They are macro nutrients because the body needs them in large quantity or large concentration. And there are some the body doesn't need that much, but they play a very important role in the body, such as iron, zinc, and copper, and we call them micronutrients. Some books, some areas call them trace element. There are the ones we don't see very essential in the body. Even if they are there at very tiny level, the body may tolerate them, but they don't play any essential role. And they include lead. It's associated with us in our everyday life. I won't scare you by mentioning some of the products we use now that contain lead. Mercury, arsenic, and cadmium. Most of the battery we use in our car is made up of cadmium. I'm sure that most of us knows when the battery has a problem, it brings out not too pleasant odor. So that is a warning sign for you. So what are the sources of this metal in biochemical system? One is the diet and water that we consume daily. Now, if we take diet that is plants that have already been polluted or were planted in a polluted soil, that the metal ion there will not easily disappear. They will remain, and we will consume them. They will be part of our body. And if we also drink water that is not up to standard, it will also pollute our body. Then we also have environmental, the air we breathe, the aerosol, the particulate matter, they all contain metal ion. And then the reservoir of all this is the soil. It serves as a sink. All that we do, we run all the soak away, everything in our house, it goes to the soil. And then lastly, industrial exposure, where we have some occupation around us that uses minerals that are very high in metals. So those flakes that we find suspended in the atmosphere is not just the flakes, they also contain metal. Now, why do metal play the role they play? Also, in the lab, we see all this behavior of metal. We see the way they react. The way they react in the lab is the way they will also react in the body. Sometimes the body has a way of moderating them to some extent, and sometimes the body has a way of accelerating them. So the metals react in so many ways, and they participate in a number of chemical reactions. Some of them are catalysis, which may be beneficial to man, like for example the decomposition of peroxide, where manganese 2 is used, and many other metal ion, like in the biological system you have zinc 2 involved in carboxyl peptidase and carbonic anhydrase. These are enzymes that you need that play a very critical physiological role in the body. Now, you also have another very important type of reaction performed by metal, the oxidation reduction reaction, mostly by transition metal, the iron, the copper that I mentioned earlier. And then the last one is the Lewis acidity, which is my major interest as a coordination chemist. So, generally, we see that the nature of metal has a profound influence on their chemical reaction, biochemical and environmental processes. The behavior of metal ion as a Lewis acid is of particular interest to a coordination chemist. Now, I want to show two skeletal examples of hemoglobin. We all have hemoglobin. That's what we are taught from primary school, hemoglobin, that enables us to breathe. What hemoglobins are at a unit level, they are coordination compound. So you can see metal at the center there, iron 2, and in the other one you can also see that it has oxygen on top of it. That oxygen is bonded to that iron. It is that the presence of the iron that enables the oxygen to be carried from the lung to the different parts of the body. Now, why coordination compound of interest in organic chemists? In medicine, we are involved in a lot of synthesis of new metallo drugs, and they are also important in material science and technology. They are also very important in other branches of chemistry, like even in organic. Most organic people depends on most of the coordination compound. And in biochemical system, we've already talked about hemoglobin and photosynthesis pigment, which we call chlorophyll. And also in corrosion and in the environment, monitoring and removal of metal ion can be achieved with the knowledge of coordination chemistry. And we can also use this as a way of storing energy. These days, there seems to be a trend towards exploration and exploitation of lithium. Lithium is used in doing what we call all these small batteries that you put in a lot of portable energy sources, and they are essentially metal complexes where lithium is involved. So therefore, in this lecture, we will be examining the role of metal ion in biochemical system, the good and the bad. The role are determined by nature and various reactions. So it's not just because they are metal. The kind of reactions they undergo is what determines how bad or how good they are. Metal ions play a crucial role in various biochemical systems. We've talked about enzyme catalysis. There are many of them. With due respect to those who are not here, who are not chemists, I won't go more into detail of this, but I know this would be of interest to my colleagues in the medical school, etc. So we proceed. And in protein structure and maintenance, they help to maintain this firm protein structure that enables us to have the very beautiful and glorious look that we wear every day. And also in regulating protein activity, gene regulation, these are all the role ion play. And they help in the gene regulation through their binding with the biological biomolecules such as DNA and RNA. And then their therapeutic application, this is where I come in here. So on their own, they show some therapeutic effect. Some of these therapeutic effects may not be good enough. So we all try to, as a coordination chemist, to improve on this and make them to even be better than some of the existing antimicrobial drugs. So either it is antibacterial or antifungal or antiviral. And then anti-cancer. A well-known metal compound is cisplatin, which was used to treat various cancer, and carboplatin that has been used in the treatment of ovarian cancer and testicular cancer. These are all metal complexes. And then it's also deployed in diagnostic tools, in MRI, and also positron emission tomography, PET. Environmental remediation, how does it help us to have a better environment? So we can use metal containing compound, the metal complexes, towards softening a hard water or a water that is heavily contaminated. And this process is what we call chelation therapy. And that same process is what is used in removing metal poisoning in the body. We use chelation therapy. And we can also use some metal ion to enhance phyto extraction, like nickel and zinc. And then we also have wastewater treatment. Most of us are familiar with what is a very common product known as alum. We put it in water to precipitate dead water. That process is simply causing some organic molecule to grab the metal ion in that water, and they are suspended and precipitated, so you are then able to filter them out. Then we also have what we call advanced oxidation. Sometimes there are some organic matter in the environment that are very stubborn. We call them persistent organic pollutants. And then we have to deploy metal ion to break them further. Now, let's go to this one, the PAC, detrimental effect stroke role of metal ion. These are the ones that is very difficult to determine the role, their level, that they begin to give us problems, that we call them bad. So we generally consider them as toxic metal. Mercury, lead, arsenic, cadmium, chromium 3, mercury 2, arsenic 3, and cadmium 2 also helps to generate the free radicals in our body. And a lot of us at certain age, we are conscious of the free radicals that are generated in our body. So metal can also contribute towards increasing the free radicals in our body. And I'm sorry, just one more before I close. So we identify some toxic effects: neurotoxicity, carcinogenicity, nephrotoxicity, that is, affect the kidney. And so you can see effect on the kidney. Now the next figure will explain further. I hope you can see it well. So you see, these are all the effects that surrounds us as man. And these are effects that we can avoid with the proper control of the heavy metals we have in the environment. And here we can see it even better. It ranges from liver problems, skin infection, neurological problem, lungs, intravascular hemolysis, stomach problem, kidney problem. And of interest is that these are tissues in the body that are soft tissues. And the reason is that most of these metals are lipophilic. They seek where there is fat or lipid. They penetrate faster. They love those areas, and those areas are therefore the target for these heavy metals we call toxic metal. Now, metal itself has been used as medicine. It started by the Egyptian scientists, where they used crude metal, iron metal. They put it in water, like I explained to that my infant, and after a year sometime, it would have rusted everything, and they drink it directly. That was the way of addressing anemia then. And the ancient Greek and Hebrew also continue extending this to other metals, including zinc, silver, lithium. But it was about 1970 that the first cancer containing metal drug was discovered, which is the cisplatin in 1971. So this became a revolutionary point in the involvement of metal in medicine. So you have carboplatin that follows, and other one, auranofin, which is gold, and rheumatoid arthritis was cured by this, and silver was used to treat burns and wounds. But what they didn't know, which they didn't study, was the mode of their reaction, the mode of action. So it was until recently that the mode of this action of the metal drugs started to captivate the attention of scientists, and in particular coordination chemists. And one of the emerging compounds when it comes to metallo drug was this shield test. It was invented by a German scientist, and it has a very interesting functional group known as azometine group. And it is prepared by a very simple method of condensing carbonyl compound with primary amine compound. Very simple, but yet has a lot of very potential. And this is where I will anchor my line of research. And for me, my interest was on tyrosine carboxone as one of the chief bases. You can see the azometine functional group there with carbon-nitrogen double bond. And another example is hydrazone. You can see carbon-nitrogen double bond as well. And in addition to the carbon-nitrogen double bond, it has a nitrogen-nitrogen bond which persists. And the interesting thing about this hydrazone is that it can coordinate using nitrogen, oxygen. And sometimes this mimics some of the biological bound molecules, the way they exist. And that is why it will easily interact with them to effect some therapeutic action. Then you have semicarboxones. You can see the carbon-carbon double bond there, where you have R1, R2. And then you see another oxygen bond there. So these atoms I'm mentioning are very important because they are the ones that form what we can call cloth around metal. They bond with metal. And sometimes these bonds are very stable. Now these compounds have been characterized in several ways. Spectral physical method, the melting point, the simple physical method, the chemical method, sometimes elemental method. And then the highly instrumental method involved infrared, and these days we use Fourier transform infrared, Raman, electronic, proton NMR, carbon-13 NMR, mass spectra, single crystal, X-ray, diffraction analysis. These are very expensive instruments which should indicate that we have some challenges here, but I will tell you how we were able to circumvent some of these challenges through collaboration. So the essence of this characterization is to give us the identity of this compound, which we were preparing, and we were aiming towards preparing novel compound. So we must achieve the identity, we must achieve the bonding, we must also achieve the bonding pattern, and their stereochemical picture. How do they look? How do they arrange themselves so that we'll be able to make an informed decision on the ways and means of their interaction in the biochemical system. In the course of my research, I've synthesized about 3,000 of these novel compounds, and involving thiosemicarbazone, semicarbazone, hydrazone, amino acid skip base, and triazole. And I'll quickly run through some of them. And my contribution to the knowledge in the field of coordination chemistry in an application involved this synthesis primarily first. And I used what we call aromatic base and heterocyclic base thiosemicarbazone. Aromatic are simply the ones that have benzene ring, and I'm sure many of us who have gone through science, we are familiar with benzene ring. Then heterocyclics are the ones that some look like benzene ring, but they have other atoms involved, not carbon, like nitrogen or oxygen. So we call them heterocyclic because those other atoms are part of the carbon ring. So we have done this research, published with my colleague in Italy initially, and we've done quite a lot of this synthesis, but just want to summarize some of the factors we have come out as that which affect their biological activity. First, we've seen that the isometal functional group is very critical in the biological activity, very, very critical. And that is why all the skip bases seem to show one form of activity or the other. And then we have, when we substitute, remove some of the hydrogen there and substitute it with other molecules or atoms, we see that there is some effect also. And we try to explain this effect basically on the basis of chemical concept. And then, most importantly, is the stability of the metal ligand bond. This metal ligand bond is what explains a lot of their ability to do so many things, either as active, bioactive element, or as corrosion inhibitor, etc. And then we also see that those compounds that are indeed lipophilic are the ones that give better results. So these are some of the compounds we have done. With due respect to most who are not chemists, I may not dwell too much on this, but this is their nature, and this is the X-ray picture of them. Now, why do I have to go to this? Is because I want to see actually their molecular level, how they look like, so that we can see how they will interact. Now, we have prepared quite a number of these complexes, including zinc, copper, nickel, manganese, vanadium, oxo-vanadium 2, palladium 2, platinum 2, rhodium 3, iridium 3, and rhodium 3. It's quite a broad spectrum of the periodic table, but some of them are very expensive. Our thinking is to have things that will be cost effective, and so we zero down on some of the relatively cheaper metal ions, zinc, nickel, copper, and we found that copper 2 was the most active of all of them. And while we recognize the very active activity of the ones we call platinum metal, palladium 2, platinum 2, rhodium 3, iridium 3, because of the extra effect they gave, like anti-malaria effect. And the challenge is that they are very expensive metal ions. So these are some of the compounds. And if you pick up a copy of the booklet, you have explained this in further details. So these are some of the compounds. These are amino acid. And why we consider amino acid was that amino acid is part of the building block of protein. And we felt it's already a biological building block. So if we are able to have a drug that is based on amino acid, then it becomes perfectly okay without challenge of toxicity or not being friendly with the body. So now another very interesting group I have centered on are the hydrazones and their metal complexes. And I've already explained earlier on, apart from having the azomethane functional group, the hydrozones also have very stable nitrogen-nitrogen bond. We've done an extensive work with them. You can see them with oxygen, nitrogen coordinating atoms. These are some of their X-ray data, our structure, sorry. This is also part of the X-ray structure, detail of which I have explained further there. And this is still part of the nicotinic hydrozone. Nicotinic is a very important compound, despite the fact that the name may sound like nicotine, but it has a lot of biological application. Sometimes it is used also as antihypertensive drug, and also reported is salicylaldehyde and tranilic acid. Now, the last group of compound we focus on extensively were the triazole. Actually, I started looking at this compound after my professorship because I was tired of working with diazomethylcarbazole, hydrazone, and others. And the triazoles are basically a heterocyclic compound. Because of the prominent effect of those heterocyclic compound based diazomethylcarbazole, I felt it would be unique to look at only triazole alone. And we obtained very interesting results. And some of these have been reported also in very high impact journals. And as a matter of fact, some of them are undergoing also further clinical tests and trial as I'm talking. So these are some of their X-ray data. These are some of their X-ray data. You can also look at the book that is being circulated and go further through them, and I will interact with you further on some of them because this is really a very interesting area we can discuss and keep discussing. The second tranche of my research has to do with contribution to the environmental system. Like I said, my aim here was to look at the level of metal ion in the environment and actually centered on water and soil. And the common metal ion in soil, I have listed them here: lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, chromium, zinc, cadmium, nickel, copper, molybdenum, etc. These metals occur at various levels in the environment. But the international community have set standard to guide us. So WHO has its own standard, which was amended last 1984. NESRA in Nigeria has its own standard, and also EPA, Environmental Protection Agency in the United States, has its own standard. And what is the essence of this standard is to enable us not to allow the level of this metal ion to exceed this level. But once they exceed the level, they become hazardous to us. And we try to do, me and my friend in geology, I think he should be here. We will talk about that later. And we went on a wild venture in those days to go to all the natural water in Apawi, Bakassi, and Urubani. And we made very interesting discovery that this water was very good water. They can be using the various pollution indices, heavy metal pollution evaluation, contamination index, and heavy metal pollution index. These were very low as far as the water from this area, the natural water, both the surface water that are easily prone to contamination, and also the groundwater. They were at least, as far as these parameters are concerned, they were quite acceptable. and their level was below the WHO permitted level. And they were essentially potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, which are products of mineral wavering. So the geology of the area was what affected their quality, not anthropogenic sources. So metal ion in soil. We've also tried to focus on soil. I had to collaborate with one of my former PhD students to do this, because at a point in Akwa Ibom State, it seems they were using different farmland to dispose most of the solid waste. And it was of interest to us to see how that had affected the soil quality. And essentially in Uyoa back, and we found out that they were quite high in lead, nickel, and chromium. And there was a direct impact of the waste dump on this soil. And we also, from the result, confirmed that lead and chromium were primarily from anthropogenic sources. All the unused electronic, unused metal, all kinds of things people were dumping in on the waste, on the farmland, remained there. Even when eventually some of those solid waste were evacuated, the soil has already absorbed the heavy metals. But we also noted that nickel and iron were actually from the natural source, that is reflecting the geology of the place. And we felt there was need for us to address this. This has been, we have also taken care of this in our recommendation. The third trend of my research work is in the corrosion inhibition. I'd like to pay particular tribute to one of us who God had called earlier on to his nearer present, Professor Offiong. But when I finished my PhD, he made me to have also an interest in corrosion inhibition. And we started using some of my compound to say, now what is the danger of corrosion? I know one of the experts in corrosion is here, he will dwell also here. But for me, as an environmentalist and as a chemist, pollution involves wearing away of metals. And when these metals are worn out, they go into the environment as ions. So some of them include mercury 2, lead 2, cadmium 2, chromium 3, and arsenic 3. So where do they go to? They move in the environment at such a high speed. So if corrosion is here in the library this year, don't be surprised that you will find it in Crutek next year. The geologists know the dynamic of the hydraulics that we are talking about. So that is why we need to discourage the dumping of solid waste in our environment. And we have used some of my compounds to investigate this, and we found out that my compounds were able to inhibit this corrosion of metals. And we've done some good work with this, and we have also seen that the functional group and the electronic structure of this compound were related to their efficiency. So we've worked with so many thousand carboxyles, and I have already detailed some of them in the book. But again, we need the structure, because we use the structure to come out with the mechanism of the inhibition. And this is a very interesting compound, simple but has very high inhibition efficiency. Alpha pyridine, which has an OH group. And I wonder what gives it the ability to form such a strong bond with metal. And we've seen that it has a very strong ability to inhibit corrosion of metal, which follows chemisorption process. We've looked at also the mechanism of corrosion inhibition involving nitrogen and sulfur coordinating compounds, those compounds that uses nitrogen and sulfur to bond with metals. And we found out that there seem to be an order. So, and most of us may not be familiar with some of these compounds, so please let me pass for now. So, these are some of my compounds we have used. So, if you pick a copy of that book, you'll be able to see some further. I've broken down this explanation better also there. So, the interesting thing is that these compounds are able to bond to the metal, and that is why they are able to inhibit the corrosion of metal. And those that have heterocyclic ring, remember I started by saying I'm using aromatic based compound and heterocyclic based compound. The ones that have heterocyclic ring were found again to do better than those that have aromatic. So they seem to have to be a correlation between corrosion inhibition as well as antimicrobial activity. So we also use hydrazone to do this as well. And this gave us very interesting results. So we then decided to go into detailed structural analysis of the hydrazone to really see how this hydrazone inhibits this compound. And we found out that it has very interesting functional group and the ability to inhibit the corrosion was due to the presence of those functional groups. So, the major advantage of skip base in corrosion inhibition is that they are very convenient to prepare or synthesize, and they are relatively cheap. So if we are able to develop it to an international standard, we are also in a position to export this. But the active ingredient here is the azomethyl functional group it has. And we find out that if we are able to order the coordination, oxygen will inhibit less than nitrogen, and nitrogen will inhibit less than sulfur, and sulfur will inhibit less than phosphorus. So the major skip base we have used are diacylcarbaxone, semicarbaxone, and hydrazone. Now let me go to what has been my contribution. Apart from research, it's not all research that I've been doing. And I'm sure that God has used me to do more than research. So, apart from research, which I've told you has given me about 89 articles published in the international, and a few of them in local journal. As I stand today, I think I have 2,708 citations in Google Scholar. And 24 H-index. And I also have 52 documents in Scopus with 1,900 citations. I have been 39 years old in University of Calabar. If you calculate from September to today, September last year made me 39 years in this university. 22 years of these 29, I have been a full professor. And I've been involved in teaching so many people, not just chemistry people, but I'm sure that anybody who did science, whether agric, medical school, and passed through this university from 1992. I must have taught the fellow in year 1 chemistry, or in year 2. So I have also written 2 books which were very useful to the student. I've been the sub-dean, dean of Faculty of Science, dean of student, and member of the governing council of our university. When I was the dean, one of the things that interested me most was to get our faculty journal up. And I rejuvenated the faculty journal, and luck came our way. That was the time we did some spectacular work at the national level. I think Professor Offiong is here. Chemistry is one department that has won the best thesis in Nigerian university. First was Professor Offiong, and the second was my student. So, in the first outing, that attracted Petroleum Technology Development Trust Fund. That is why we have the applied chemistry block there. And this has also helped me to, I work with lead Professor Offiong to do that. Now, my research has addressed the Sustainable Development Goal, the SDG goal. 72% of my research publications are co-authored with top international experts, and 77.8% of my research documents are cited in top 25 most cited documents worldwide. 6 of the SDG goals have been addressed by my research work. And you see there, good health and well-being, 1. SDG 6, clean water and sanitation, 7, affordable and clean energy, and 11, sustainable city and community, life below water, and partnership for goal 17. I have also personally contributed to the development, physical development of the university, and I personally furnished a seminar room, developed it to standard, which was used also by the faculty. And I have also developed some of the curriculum that we are using in the department. In fact, the last 2 curricular development was chaired by me. And I have also chaired the first basic minimum academic standard for postgraduate studies in Nigerian University in 1978. I chaired the chemistry section. I have produced 5 professors, and it will interest you, some of them have also been key. Professor Yi is the immediate past dean of our faculty, and Professor Alobi, may so rest in peace, was also the dean of science in Unicross now. He used to be recruited then. And I have so many others. I have been involved in a lot of assessment and etc. But this is just a few I can mention. Conclusion and further direction. Madam Vice Chancellor, as we conclude this inaugural lecture, it is evident that metal ions play multifaceted roles in biochemical and environmental systems. Their therapeutic applications and environmental impact underscore the significance of understanding metal ion chemistry. I have extensively reviewed my contribution to the development of metallo drug, a class of compound that contains metal ion or complexes used for medicinal purposes. Transition metal ion mostly combined with steel bases to form stable metal complexes, which in biochemical systems interact with biomolecules to exert therapeutic effect. The future of metallo drug is promising, with ongoing research focused on developing new ones. more effective and less toxic metal-based drug. My second trend is remediation and prevention strategy for environmental pollution. And I have seen the role of metal here very, very prominent in mitigating effects of metal ion contamination and protecting the environment from environment and human health. This includes waste disposal management to the level of metal ion release, soil amendment such as the use of appropriate chelating agent, as well as transforming immobilized metal ion. Some of those metal ions that are there in most of our sediment, they are immobilized because they don't move easily, and they continue to contaminate aquatic life. Most of us love periwinkle and other sediment, domiciliary aquatic animal. They have been found to be heavily loaded with this heavy metal. Madam Vice Chancellor, the third tranche of my contribution is in the area of development of novel steel-based metal complexes for effective corrosion inhibition. Steel-based have a unique molecular structure and combines it with the property of amines and aldehyde, so making them form stable bond with metal and thereby preventing corrosion. We'll move forward. It is further anticipated that as the research continues towards addressing the above challenge and exploring several new directions, skill-based metal complexes can become more effective and widely adopted solution for protecting metal analog from corrosion, with significant implications for industries such as construction, transport, and energy. As we move forward, it is crucial that we continue to explore the complexity of metal ion chemistry and its far-reaching implications. This lecture has merely scratched the surface of the vast and fascinating realm of metal ion chemistry. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the world of metal ion chemistry. I look forward to continuing this conversation and exploring further the exciting possibilities that this field has to offer. And I make 3 recommendations. The first, I'm recommending, that's the take-home, the need for us to sustain the culture of collaborative research. And the second recommendation is for us to be conscious of routine monitoring of the quality of the environment. And the third is that we should be the advocate of discouraging people dumping solid waste in our cultivated land. Acknowledgement. I acknowledge the Almighty God for seeing me through this journey. I couldn't have done it without Him. His divine providence and blessing has enabled me to achieve the several academic milestones. And I would like to also acknowledge my late parents who instilled in me the need to believe and cherish education. That was the only thing they told me will see me through to any way in this world. So their guidance and support, encouragement to me, I can see it was priceless. I am grateful to my loving wife. I would like to crave your indulgence, Madam Vice Chancellor, that I will invite my wife to stand. I know what she passed through in this my research work. And my first son, Effanga, my first daughter, Dr. Asa. Effanga is an engineer, Asa is a medical doctor, and my personal pharmacist is Amen. They have been really wonderful. and I love you all. Please sit down. And I'd like to also acknowledge my brothers, my sibling. Effanga is in Lagos, he couldn't make it. Elder Ko is here. Please, you may be all standing. Dr. Ngora is here. Professor Offiong is here. Yes, he's in Europe. He's an ENT surgeon. So I think my father will be resting well wherever he is now. I'd like to also recognize and welcome my mother-in-law, Professor Effanga Offiong. She's one of those who actually made me to become a lecturer. Please, I didn't know her daughter at that time. But God used her. Let me also recognize a two-more professor here. When he said I should be a lecturer in inorganic unit, I didn't like it. But I thank God what God has used me to do. I thank Professor N.T. Akinjan, is late now, may their soul rest in peace. I thank Professor U.J. Bob. He told me he would try to make it, but I can understand. Professor R.K. Sud is late. That was another inorganic chemist that I studied under. Professor John Ofem was my analytical chemistry teacher and who gave me 2.5 highest education notebook, and we were still copying more. Professor Odi Ekpa, another fantastic organic teacher. These were very kind teachers. But let me recognize my teacher in secondary school, please. I'm sure most of you would not know Professor Paul of Geography. That was my geography teacher in secondary school in class 2. And I think most of us in Hope Model will remember him. So let me also recognize my other external supervisor, Professor Sante Matali of University of Cameroon, Italy, Professor Henry Nord of University of Munich. They actually put me through how to be a researcher. And then Professor Schmidt of University of Essen, Germany, Professor Mike Horshaus. I kept telling him I don't want to call him Mike. He said that's the only name I should call him, Mike. So they were very fantastic people. I thank all these international organizations for the grant they gave to me. I think that my youthful career as inorganic chemistry was blessed. And I thank also the Department of Chemistry, who has always provided a very homely environment for many of us that are there. The comradeship that we have established truly is the reason for us to engage, as the DVC has said, with a lot of fantastic impact that we are creating in the world. And I congratulate all of you, and please, we must keep up with this. Now, let me recognize my PhD students. They were guinea pigs this time, under me. Professor Ayi Ayi, who is my citation reader, was my first PhD student. Professor Emmanuel Fong is a professor in the University of Buea in Cameroon, and is doing very well in Cameroon. Some of those publications are also with some of my other students in Cameroon with him. Dr. Atim Johnson, Dr. Godwin Ekong, Dr. Emmanuel Okon is here. You may have to stand up. Dr. Stephen Adaniku is also here. Please stand up wherever you are. Dr. Basina is here. You may stand up. Dr. Sika Okot. And I think I've not mentioned all. These are some of the people God has also used me to train. Most of my research, we did it with the people in the physical unit So you have Professor Benso is watching us online now. He's in South Africa. We have Professor Benedicta, I think he should be here. Professor Basiepo is here. I saw him. Epo, you may stand up. We've done some good, very interesting work together with Basiepo. And let me also recognize, I think somebody has thought of something. Professor Peter Okafo, Professor Vincent Osabo, Professor Francisca Bassi. These were later colleagues of mine that joined towards the end. And we have worked together with Professor Peter Okafo, the DVC research. I salute all of you. I also like to recognize my special friend. We started this life together. I am Professor Nsesien. We were admitted into Unical the same year. VC Axel, please, may you wish to stand up? So we started together, and our friendship is still blossom. So Professor Inorganic is here. God has carried us to so many places. Even in Germany, we met again. And some of the photographs you see us trying to enjoy the cold weather in Germany. And Dr. James Hedek, who left us to join the oil company. But we lost one late last year, Elder Oforebon. May so rest in peace. I want to welcome all my Presbyterian brothers and sisters, and with special thanks to my minister in charge. I saw the boss here, Most Reverend Theophilus Ibala. He has come with other associate ministers here. You are welcome. And I also know that Prelate was supposed to be here, but he's attending a crusade in Port Harcourt. He had already apologized for that. His Eminence, Dr. Offiong Effanga. I'd like to thank all my elders, fellow elders who are here, and all members of the Presbyterian in all our parishes, and as well as my brothers and sisters from Effanga Offiong. I recognize my Tubom-elect, retired Justice Charles Achibong, and other brothers from Effanga Offiong who are here. You are welcome. And I hope by the time you go back, you will be able to decide whether I have disappointed you in this sojourn. My special thanks to the Vice Chancellor. There is a powerful group, the Obong of Calabar Executive Forum, please, and the Tubom Traditional Rulers Council, and is here represented by one of my Tubom here. So I cannot fail to recognize them as a typical song. So I recognize the chairman of OCF and all the members of OCF who have found time to be here. And I also appreciate the Tubom Traditional Ruling Council for sending a representative here. I really appreciate it deeply. Thank you. My special thanks and appreciation goes to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Florence Banguobi, who has, during his tenure, has actually sustained the academic culture of presentation of the inaugural lecture, and also has made it very interesting. Some of us keep postponing, we will do, but today I've done it. I think it's going to go. So well done, our Vice Chancellor. I want to also appreciate all the principal officers. I think that almost all the principal officers are here. The DVC admin who is representing the Vice Chancellor, the DVC academic, the DVC research. This is my own, with due respect. And we will tell that story another day. He was admitted into biology, and he came to me after one of my classes and said, sir, I want to do chemistry. I said, let's go now. And that is how it happened. And we changed to chemistry. I give glory to God that today Professor Peter Oftafu is doing a lot of wonderful things. I want to thank all the principal officers, especially, and also the director, senior establishment. I've been troubling him. Today, I think we are good friends after today. My sincere gratitude. Finally, I am overwhelmed with gratitude as I look out at this incredible gathering of relation, colleagues, family, friends. Your presence here today has made this occasion truly special and is a testament to the power of community, connection. And I think God has designed it so. And I'm deeply grateful to every one of you for being part of this journey with me. Thank you. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Well done, Prof. That was quite educative. I'm thanking God that we are all standing up. Because I wanted to say the non-metal ions in our bodies will begin to react. We have sat for more than one. May we be seated, please. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, permit me to invite the chairman of this occasion to step forward for presentation of the lecture notes by the inaugural lecturer and also appreciation by the lecturer through the exchange of memento.
The Vice Chancellor represented here by the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration. I wish to present to you my inaugural lecture, the full text of my inaugural lecture, titled The Role of Metal Ion in Biochemical and Environmental Systems, the Good and the Bad, from the perspective of a coordination chemist. Thank you for the opportunity.
This is the memento presented to Professor Offiong Effanga Offiong, the 133 inaugural lecturer of the University of Calabar, by the chairman, on behalf of the chairman, Professor Offiong Effanga, today, 8th January 2025.
Point to invite the chairman, Committee of Deans, Professor Ekaitena, to give a vote of thanks.
The Vice Chancellor, here represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration, please permit me to stand on the existing protocol to make my votes of thanks. First of all, I want to thank the Almighty God for ushering all of us into this new year to witness this presentation by our erudite professor. I thank the 133rd inaugural lecturer, who is our professor in the Faculty of Physical Sciences, and if I become biased today, pardon me, Professor Offiong has been one of us, a professor of professors, and a mentor per excellence. Like he rightly said, beyond chemistry, he has mentored us. And today, we say, Prof, thank you for you. And if you paid attention to the inaugural lecture today, you will, there's one thing I want you to take home. He said that metal ions are omnipresent. Did you hear that? That means they are in the soil, in the environment, even in our bodies. And that depending on the quantity in your body and the toxicity of the ones in your body, it can be very harmful. But as we rise up from here, he made some very powerful recommendations. And one of the ones I want us to take home is, as we go back to our communities, as we go back to our environments, let's discourage people from indiscriminate dumping of solid waste. I want to appreciate the Vice Chancellor for always giving us this opportunity. Twice a month we gather like this to talk to ourselves and to also educate ourselves. Please convey our sincere thanks to the Vice Chancellor. We thank all the management team, all the Deputy Vice Chancellors are here. We appreciate, most especially, like I said, I may go very bad, I may become biased. Our dear Professor, the Vice Chancellor of AXO, for beating that road. If you have ever traveled to Akwa Ibom recently, you will appreciate the efforts that he has put in to be here. Prof, we appreciate you. We appreciate all the members of Senate. Our dear Professor Ekabre, she's always here, backing us up. Man, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. We appreciate all the members of the Committee of Deans and members of the University of Calabar Senate, especially those that did fit to work for this occasion. We appreciate all of you. Thank you for coming. And also on this side, we appreciate the friend of the inaugural lecturer, my own very Professor Ayi. Thank you for helping us to introduce Professor Offiong. We appreciate the family of the inaugural lecturer, the children, and our dear professor, the mother-in-law of Professor Offiong, who is also one of us in the Faculty of Physical Sciences. We appreciate and we thank the royal fathers in the house, the spiritual fathers in the house, members of the Presbyterian community that are here. And before they stone me when I get back to my faculty, I want to give your indulgence to ask the HOD of Pure and Industrial Chemistry to stand up for recognition. And I also want to specially appreciate all the staff and students of the Faculty of Physical Sciences, including my humble self, for the gift of Professor Offiong to the university community. We appreciate ourselves. And we want to thank specially the members and the staff of the information unit of the university, the staff of the development unit for the work that they have been doing behind the scene. We appreciate all the Malabites and Malabraces in the house, gentlemen of the press. Everybody is appreciated. Thank you so much for coming. And we pray that as you go back home, the Almighty God will grant you journey mercy soon. God bless you.
As we come to the end of this exercise, permit me once again to call on the Vice Chancellor and Chairman of this occasion, ably represented by our own very Professor Enonta, DBC Admin, to make her closing remarks.
I have come with my paper and my pen. So, can we have our exam now? How many minutes? You are very fortunate because we don't want the ions to overwhelm us. But, you know, at the beginning, I did promise you that you would have a nice time and that you would learn. I have learned a lot. What are the things I have learned? For example, when we talked about copper, I remember that we used to have copper wires stolen from practically everywhere. I thought they were just for people to make ornaments, earrings and stuff. Now I'm beginning to think that perhaps, given how expensive medical drugs are, perhaps they are also trying to use them for that. Then when we said something about the lead and the pollution of some places, I don't know whether I should continue eating pig, and I had already cooked that pot of soup. But, you know, and he also said something, incidentally, I'm from Ona, and he said that the pollution status was so bad. I said, oh, now we have to go to an IGP, but he gave me hope. He also said that he's been working on corrosion inhibitors, and that is the future. So you see, I have learned. Or don't you think I deserve to get 100%? Never mind that I didn't know chemistry when I was in school. It has aroused my interest. And that is what an inaugural lecture does. Becoming open mind, ready to just speak into whatever our colleagues have been doing. And I tell you, each time we attend, I get to know so much more to understand better and to appreciate not just the lecturer, but also God. For ultimately, that knowledge is from God. He is the one that has blessed you. And for that, we say, God, to you be all the glory. Thank you very much, my brothers and sisters, all the various groups that have been identified, the high and the mighty, my colleagues, friends, family of the lecturer, but especially our 133 inaugural lecturer for making us proud to be unical, to be Nigerians, and to be children of God. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we please give a sounding applause? Just a quick one. I'll do a very fast one on this recognitions. May I recognize immediate past registrar of the university, Mr. Gabriel Ege. Please put your hands together for your sister there. Immediate past deputy vice chancellor, today, Professor Angela Yorita. I learned she's here, I saw her. Please put your hands together for her. Former Deputy Governor of Cross River State, His Excellency Offiong Effanga. Please put your hands together for him. May I recognize the present former State Chairman PDP, Ntufam Igbo Okoro. Put your hands together. Immediate former Chief Protocol to the Governor, Chief Emmanuel Asipo. Chief Whip, Cross River State House of Assembly, Rights Honorable Hilary Bison. The son to our dear Vice Chancellor. Boys Brigade of Nigeria, please you're all recognized. Chairman Local Government Service Commission, Mr. Darlington Enyo. Chief Asibo Asuko Sabata, please you're recognized. Elder Mrs. Akabio Mang, you're recognized. May I recognize the Chairman Cross River State Civil Service Commission, Sam Morris F.Y. Please you're recognized. The Chairman Calabar South Local Government Area, Pastor Patrick Achievable. Please, you're all recognized. Can we put our hands together for them? At this point, may I recognize and introduce to you our next inaugural lecturer, the 134th inaugural lecturer. She is a professor of midwifery, and she's no other person than Professor Offiong Effanga Offiong. Can we put our hands together for her? 134th inaugural lecturer. Please same time and same venue in the next 2 weeks. At this point, may I request members of the high table to please go down and have a group photograph. Immediately after that, we'll take the University of Calabar song.